Hello, welcome to Cherrywood Live, episode 104. Tonight I'm going to be talking about mops and scraps and other small bits of cherrywood. We often hear from customers that they save every little scrap of cherrywood because it's so beautiful they can't throw anything away. So we're going to kind of talk about what to do with your scraps and grab bags and mops. So tonight's featured item is our mops, and these are fun little handfuls of strips of fabric. Now this all started because we cut our cherry rolls, that's what we call them. They're like jelly rolls, but they're cherry wood, so we cut them with a die cutter by hand. So there's always waste on the fabric that gets cut off. And this is what it looks like when we make our cherry roll vine kit. And those pieces of fabric just look so pretty. We thought, let's tie them up and sell them because this is like probably over a yard of fabric right here. So because they're kind of random and from whatever leftover bits we have, we just cut up strips. Sometimes they have the selvage on them. Sometimes they're wider like this, sometimes they're skinny. But again, there's a lot of fabric here. Basically a nice handful. And we kind of put them together in color order, like when we cut the strips. Some of these are with the fabric, so 44 inches long. Sometimes the pieces maybe are just 22 inches long. And again, don't count on them being any specific width. So just have fun and play with them. So these we call mops for obvious reasons. They look like mops. They also look like pom-poms, so you could be a Cherrywood cheerleader. And these mops we have been taking to quilt shows only. So they have been a show special, something that we just have in the Cherrywood booth at quilt shows. And mainly because we never really know how many we're going to have, and they always sell out at the quilt shows. And so we just haven't put them on our website. Just know that they may not be exactly what you see here. The colors will vary. This is our spicy velvet. So it's a combination of a couple of our colorways. We have blacks and neutrals and grays. We have a bright bunch where and sometimes we're kind of cutting up things, especially for mops, that maybe we can't sell or we just don't have enough of to sell, so they may end up in a mop. And then we have random ones. So you could get darks and lights and all sorts of colors. But yes, these are all strips. Oh, here's another random one right here. This one has a little red in it. So sometimes they are with the fabric, 44 inches, and sometimes they're 24 inches or 22 inches if we cut up a fat quarter. So what can you do with these mops? Well, let me move some of them and I will show you some pieces that we have played with. We have the sample hanging up, and of course the crocheters just had to touch it because what we did was had somebody crochet from the mop strips. And she used a very large needle. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. This one is knit. We also have a crocheted one. So some of the strips had to be cut a little thinner because you could, some could be this wide. So you probably could cut these in half to make 2 strips. But you can crochet and knit with strips of fabric. It's got a really cool stretch. And one person, you can sew the ends end to end to just keep getting a long roll. Or I believe in this one, she tied a tiny little knot. So as the color changed, there's a little knot tying it together. And then here is a little coaster. So yeah, you can knit and crochet if you are inclined to do that. Or you can make these wonderful fabric bowls. And these are the clothesline fabric bowls. And these strips are just perfect to wind around the clothesline. This happens to be made by Heather Thormanson, who is like the queen of baskets. And she will take these strips from the mops. See, some of them are shorter, but this, it doesn't matter. In fact, the shorter they are, the more color change you'll get. And the fabric is simply wrapped tightly around the clothesline, and it's a cotton clothesline. And there's a specific weight that she really likes that you're able to sew through. So once you get the cord all covered with cherrywood, then you sew it together on your sewing machine. And you're basically sewing a coil in the middle, and the size and shape of your coil in the middle determines the size of your bowl. So as you can see here, she put together a bunch of really muted brownish colors, so it really looks like a raffia bowl. Just think if it had some fun colors. Yeah, great way to use up strips from the mops. And I have a couple other samples to show you of things that I've done, but I sat down with my friends Shannon and Jason. They are the Sheba guys. We've connected a couple years ago, and they are now Cherrywood ambassadors because, well, when you watch the video, you'll see why, but they designed a vest. I'll have some better pictures in the video. It's called the Sashiko vest. They just came out with a new book all about Sashiko stitching. This is Sashiko stitching. And what you see here is, you'll see some little green polka dots. That is just for marking. So they have marked the grid work onto the cherrywood, and then all of that white stitching is 2 thicknesses of thread. And they have a special Sashiko thread that they sell on their website. And look at that, just amazing detail. So I'm excited to try Sashiko. And this is part of the vest that we have kits for. They designed a vest using all cherrywood and showed it off in our booth, and they've shown it on, they do really cool fashion shows at the Stitches events. And this vest was on the runway, and it was just gorgeous. So we have the pattern for the Sashiko vest, and that's a PDF download file. That is on our website. It's on the live tab right now. And the kits, you get all of these beautiful colors against a beautiful indigo background. And that's what all the patches are made for in the background for the Sashiko stitching. So I'm going to show the video now of Shannon and Jason in our chat, and they could talk for hours. So this is the edited version, but it's a lot of fun, so I hope you enjoy. Oh, and I'll show you more stuff afterwards, so stick around. So hi guys, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi.
Well, I just want to chat with you guys a little today because you guys are using Cherrywood in your projects, and you're such great advocates for it, and you have new stuff happening, and
yeah, I'll just kind of let you go. Like, what do you like about Cherrywood?
Oh, what's there not to like?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that I think all of us are drawn to, the first two things, are the color,
right,
and the texture.
Yes.
I mean, there's no comparable product out there on the market that has that same feel to it,
right,
and that finished look with Cherrywood, and so that's the thing that like got us all.
Yeah, it wasn't really
hot and bothered under the collar about it.
Yeah, it's not a flat color at all. There are really slight variations in it, which just gives it a really nice life as you're working with it. You don't get that same heavy, just blue or just yellow.
Right.
It's there's something more in there.
But just, I mean, the feel of the fabric, period.
Right.
Because we use it for garments and for projects like the ones you see behind us.
Yeah.
And so we use it for everything. It really is the one of the fabrics that you can cross all different types of maker barriers with. So it doesn't just have to be quilting or we started using it for needle punch, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And because it's dense and it's heavy and it holds the thread in place. Yeah. So and then
why don't you guys tell me a little bit about what you guys do, because you've got your fingers in all sorts of stuff.
Yes, we do. Why we were late.
They're in
today.
everything.
Yeah, in everything. So we started out 12 years ago.
Something like that.
Doing crochet and knitwear design.
Right.
And we were just dying to get into something new, and that's how we fell into Sashiko.
Right.
Was coming up with some new classes to teach. And Sashiko is the stitching that you see here behind us that we're doing. That's this and on this dress form. This is all Cherrywood. This is all Cherrywood.
Yeah, the whole panel, which
this
I
wall
don't know how much
is,
you can see. You can see some
is all
there,
Cherrywood.
No, have I seen that one in person, or this is a new
no,
not in person. I think you've seen a photo
these
of it.
are the first time anybody's seeing these. These are from our new book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we kind of fell into Sashiko kind of accidentally. We were looking for hand sewing classes that we could teach at events, so that we wouldn't have to have machines there, and that people could just pick up a little kit and get started.
Right. It started with crazy quilting, because that's something you can definitely pick up a couple pieces and you just sew.
And there was some obscure reference on a website that said that crazy quilting somehow resulted from people seeing boro patching.
Yeah.
There's anecdotal evidence that it was people who saw those that took that and that inspired crazy quilts. And that's how the whole thing happened. And now it turned into our entire book.
Right.
We found the museum in Japan that has all of Chizaburo Tanaka's boro pieces and Sashiko pieces that he collected from all over Japan and saved from being just
destroyed.
They were just going away.
Forgotten, I think, is a better word.
Yeah, it's a better word. Forgotten. And so we started looking at that exhibit, and we were just blown away by the textiles and the stitching, and it was amazing. And we fell in love with it, and we were just using like dense quilting cottons. We were using a lot of just the mainstream commercial stuff. And the first time we touched your fabrics, I mean, we were already using Cherrywood a little bit.
Yeah.
But we hadn't had a chance to do a lot of sewing because we were working on other projects.
Right.
And I was just like, wait, we got to do this, because what you use is a very sharp needle and cotton 12 weight thread from our Arafil collection.
Yes.
And that's what you're seeing there is this cotton 12 weight thread. This is all Cherrywood.
And the stitches stand out so beautifully on.
Boy, do they pop out.
This fabric. It
the
just
dense, almost felted structure, that peached fabric that you do is just... When you put stitches into that, they just stand. We want this to stand out.
Right.
And boy, do they. Because it's just a running stitch. There's no back stitches in it. It's all running stitch.
It's
all just a forward running stitch that you do. Yeah, bizarre.
I know. You're like, really?
Yeah.
It's all forward motion. There's no backward stitches in that anywhere.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, it lays beautifully on the surface of the fabric and stays nice and snug in there because the dense fabric holds onto the thread. So for us, it was a given, that it would end up getting a huge feature in the book, and it does.
Yes, and it does.
And also in our classes, when we teach these classes, this is what we definitely recommend that they start with, because it's a dense
dense
beautiful,
woven.
beautiful dark blue that really echoes that traditional indigo look.
Well, they're also strong colors, so any thread that you're using is going to pop
Right.
out from behind that. When you start using things that are really mottled colors or things that have patterns on them, the stitches tend to disappear.
Which
behind
that is a
it.
place, but for beginners, and if you want a classic look like this,
This is classic.
I mean, look at that.
Sashiko. It is.
And you can see this down here with the purple, with the way those we'll send you pictures of these so you can put those
you
up.
get close-ups
Get
on
close-ups of them, but this is all dense. That's all thread.
Oh my gosh.
That's all thread. Yeah, our first editor looked at it and thought that this was fabric that we bought somewhere.
That it was
Yeah,
printed that way.
Like printed
It was
fabric.
printed, and we're just like, no,
No,
that's
we
all.
need that.
We did that. We did that.
This is using all cherry wood, and they are scrappy, wonky log cabins, so it's kind of an abstract take on log cabin blocks.
Yeah, okay.
One, we don't like wasting anyway, and this
Right.
the whole thing of studying Sashiko and Boro really taught us about no waste.
Right.
And the value of using, as you know, they have a saying about using fabric. If it's as big as 3 beans,
3 beans.
if it's big enough to hold 3
3
beans,
then it was big enough to keep and then use on
and
something.
use again.
Right.
Okay.
And so we were like, okay, 3 soybeans.
Yeah.
It's probably what they were planting was soybeans.
Yeah,
And then
So you take 3 beans, and if you can, and that's a pretty small piece of fabric.
Yeah.
And so, and certainly with Cherrywood, I mean, we keep all of our fabric scraps.
oh yeah.
You've shown us your fabric scraps, and I've drooled over them.
We have everything from little bins like this
We
that
have
are
these.
Tiny scraps.
They're different sizes.
3 beans will not fit in this. Just FYI, this is not 3 beans worth.
But we
But
use these.
But we use them anyway.
There's everything from the little king timers about the size of your thumbnail
to actual strips of, maybe
which
like
is where
2
you
inches.
came in with this last batch that you sent us.
Mhm.
Had, oh my God, so many scraps in it. It was so.
Well, I
I
can
mean,
grab some of you.
I mean, it was
Let me
exciting.
hang
It was exciting that we got the actual yardage. Like you sent us, like I think 1/4 yards and 1/2 yards
Yeah, I think so.
to do this quilt. But you also sent us like strips and thicker strips.
Aren't they fun?
And they really are. I took those strips and sewed them together into one big piece of fabric.
Mhm.
And I think I sent you a text with it, and you said, "So what are you going to make?" And I'm like,
Who knows?
I mean,
Who
I
knows?
just liked the way they looked
Yeah.
together as a piece of fabric. And Cherrywood just lends itself to that so well because, again, you don't have to worry about, when we're doing this stuff, we don't worry about the bias
Right.
or the grain. We just,
Right side, wrong side.
Oh,
yeah.
the
And
best
it's,
part.
you're
Yeah.
able to maneuver the pieces in without thinking. And the
Right.
idea with doing the abstract the way that we do it is to not really think about what you're creating in the end. But
Mhm.
just grab a piece and say, oh, I need this shape to fill out here, and so put something there. There's some thought to color.
And
It's
don't
just-
you think all the colors, they kind of go together? I mean, even
They do.
They do. Yeah. There's nothing that doesn't fit well with
Yeah.
another one, even if it's way on the other side of the either the value spectrum or the actual color spectrum. They still fit together as pieces.
And I just think that the saturation of the dyes that you get,
Right.
just even that piece that you've got there behind you like that. I mean, just there are color combinations that you don't really think about.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you just grab it and I mean, that color of those colors of green that you like so much, this one, that
Yeah.
greenish yellow, it blended so well with so many different colors.
Right.
it's a neutral.
It's something
Yeah.
that you wouldn't expect.
Exactly.
But when we were looking, I was like, this will never go together. And you just laid it right on top, and it was beautiful.
Was stunning.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, it really does act as a neutral. And so many of the colors, you don't have to think in traditional color palettes anymore. As a matter of fact, I kind of hate doing that now that I've gotten into the habit of cherrywooding the hell out of a project. You know?
It's a verb now, cherrywood. Cherrywooding.
Well, yeah, it is.
really
It totally is. We totally cherrywooded that project. And I won't put away my cherrywood projects that I'm doing. So there's a pile of cherrywood fabric over there in the corner of the cutting table. It's all scraps.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that I go over and I just grab.
Mhm.
And I
As you
literally
make a
hack
piece.
off a piece
Yeah.
and take it over when I need a fill spot. So it just really, I think it gave us the freedom
Totally.
to
Yeah.
do things that I'm not an abstract person.
Oh no. No.
Yeah.
Type A.
Yeah, when it came to garment design,
Yeah.
we both are just like,
This is the way it's done.
and all the lines are like this and very
Mhm.
clean and structured.
Yeah.
And getting into abstract, I was just like, oh, I got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was worried about patterns in the fabric and the colors, and with Cherrywood, like, you know, of course, there's no patterns, but it works together so well. And again, you don't have to. We don't worry about bias and grain.
Even when I make clothing with Cherrywood, I put straight a grain up and down, or
right.
It just works.
The vest that we did, the vest, Sashiko vest, number one, the first piece that we did in Cherrywood. So so this is done in a really traditional Japanese vest style for the construction. And it is made in 2 big panels of Cherrywood, or 3 rather, 1, 2, and then the third one on the back.
Yep.
And then the real sizing, I mean, there is some sizing that happens in those, but those are just straight rectangle cuts.
Yeah.
The sizing comes in here with where you place this for the armhole depth and how wide you make this panel.
Yeah, that's ingenious easy to fit anybody.
It really is.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. That was the idea with it. And then we put the measurements in for how to cut everything. And you can see it is stitched to within an inch of its life. Everything that you see, every pattern you see on that,
all of that is
all hand stitched, because this is Cherrywood again. So
yeah,
and those stitches stand out beautifully.
And it's kind of a combination of your Boro and Sashiko, right?
Because yes, it is.
Boro and Sashiko. This is a modern take on Boro. The Boro that you see here in the background is raw edge Boro.
Yeah.
And so it is going to be more, it's going to have frayed edges. This is from a thinner quilting cotton because it frays easier. Cherrywood.
It doesn't fray.
Does not fray.
We have not had that problem with it at all.
Well, we haven't been able to do it either.
Well, right, yeah, that's true.
We tried.
Unless you take a shoe brush to it.
Right.
Type of brush you use for the bottom of suede shoes, like ballroom dancers use. You take that to the edge of it and distress it, and it stays perfectly.
It gives it a really nice distressed look.
FYI,
it does,
it's beautiful. But what we did is this is all folded under, and Jason did it all with monofilament. So Boro is a patchwork type of mending. They would use this to cover holes. And what we did is we studied. You should come into camera.
Oh yeah, I was just.
We studied. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pieces.
We did, yeah.
Of traditional Boro and Sashiko patchwork pieces, and we kind of came up with this underlying theme, a method.
When you start looking at it, you see how everything started with a much larger piece of fabric, and then a piece of it got worn here and here, so they put another piece on there and then a piece on that, and generally those pieces would wear down again, because if that's where something was going to be worn, it's going to wear in a certain area. So like an edge of that would wear down, so they'd patch that again and again and again.
So we kind of came up with a modern aesthetic, a modern quilting aesthetic to it, and that was really who saw this first was the Modern Quilt Guild.
Yeah.
The local Modern Quilt Guild was like,
whoa.
And then so you can see we did layer some of the patches. This one's layered too. That's 2 different patches of Cherrywood there. So again, this is not exact Boro.
Right.
It is a modern Boro. Yeah. And an taking artistic license with it. And again, talking about color palettes. Look at those colors together.
Yeah, it's not
the chartreuse again with
a little bit darker version of that chartreuse with a hot pink,
and a deep purple
right? And it just
on that
works.
indigo background, indigo kind of holds everything together because
it really does. Yeah,
that base.
Yeah,
it's like cooking. I mean, it's like making a sauce.
Yeah,
it really is. You have your base. And then you add something that has the acidity to it, and you add something that has a little bit of brightness beyond that, and then you have to have something a little bit creamy to mellow everything out. And I would say this indigo is definitely the base.
Yes.
It is the base.
It's what everything is built off of is the indigo.
And the fact that the stitches didn't like soak right into the fabric.
Yeah, they
you know
really
what I mean by soak into the fabric
Mm-hmm.
instead of sitting up here on top where they just go like this.
Yeah,
and you want that sometimes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But
yeah,
the fact that we could make
quilting,
this,
you want that to lay down.
The fact that we could make this stand out with those teeny tiny short stitches through all that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, like, if you have to unstitch something or pick stitches out, it doesn't leave a hole in the fabric. You can kind of scratch the fibers back.
You can.
You can, yeah.
And this, you've seen this on the runway, how the bottom of this just
flips and moves and flies, yeah.
Like when she moves, even with these heavy lapels, because these lapels are doubled.
These are doubled as well, yep.
Oh my God.
Doubled and then stitched through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Cherrywood, it crosses all the barriers, the borders between the different crafts that we do.
Right.
Garments.
That's really cool.
Quilting, art project. I mean, because we don't always make something like that big strip of fabric that I did, just taking the mops and sewing those together in strips. It may just end up getting hung on the back of a chair that way and just looked at forever.
Well, I think everybody needs to give themselves permission to do that.
Right. No, not everything has to be planned out in advance 12 steps ahead. Just you get some fabric, look at it, and then just start playing with it and see what it's going to do.
And I think those mops and the grab bags that you do.
Yes, those grab bags are brilliant.
Grab bags are awesome for Sashiko.
If you need a certain color, and you may not like yellow, so you're not going to have yellow in your stash.
Right,
but you can grab bag and you've got all these colors, and you're going to take inspiration because you have all the colors.
Right.
Yes, it gives you freedom to play and to explore new colors and new types of construction. I think we did that one woven piece out of it.
Oh yeah, we did. That's right.
We did a woven piece out of it.
Yeah.
And because you don't have to finish the ends, you don't have to make bias strips
yeah.
out of the whole thing. You just cut it off, and at the end of it, you can just go through and trim things up with a pair of ductile scissors. I mean, it just it's just a beautiful, easy medium to work with, I think.
Yeah.
That, I kind of looked at it as a base fabric more than anything when I first started, but then it just took over and became
center stage.
Yeah.
Entire pieces. I mean, you see.
Yeah.
I have had such a good time talking to you guys.
Always a great time talking to you. And thank you for having us on.
And I'll keep feeding you fabric.
Designs. Yes, and the fabric. Thank you for the fabric.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us to have a high quality product like Cherrywood available at our fingertips, because it really does allow our creativity to spread in ways that we hadn't even conceived of initially. So thank you for that.
Well, that's wonderful. You're very welcome, and keep creating.
Thank you, Darla. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Aren't those guys a hoot? I just love them. We always have great fun when we get together, and they are just great ambassadors for Cherrywood. Yeah, I hope they really inspired you to play with scraps, to try Sashiko. Now that you've seen beautiful pictures of that vest and all the gorgeous colors that they put into it. And here's another little basket that I made. I started playing with kind of what the Shiba guy doing. They were sewing the strips together, long lengthways. And I thought, let the ragged ends, what if I sewed down the middle of the strips just onto a background fabric? So I worked on a flat surface and just laid some pieces, did a gentle curve and kind of concentric, kind of like echo quilting. So you can see the color of the background fabric coming through, but these are just basically top stitched onto the back. And then I just formed it into a simple pouch kind of bowl. But I really want to try this on a jacket. I think that would be a gorgeous texture because it's not very thick. It lays down flat, but to get that natural little a little bit of fraying on the edges, and like the Shiba guy said, Cherrywood does not fray. I mean, this is about all the fraying you'll get. The nice tight weave of the fabric keeps it very sturdy and great for artsy stuff like this. So any kind of fiber arts project. Your creativity just flows so much better when you've got stuff like this in front of you. When you see colors, they speak to you. They tell you what to do. You don't have to work so hard at trying to figure out what to do. It's right there to play with and to layer and to get your fingers feeling it and your eyes loving it, and it all comes together. And it's really nice to have lots of colors in your stash. So mops are perfect. Grab bags, that's another great reason to have a couple of grab bags. So you get colors that maybe you normally wouldn't have picked out in the store on purpose, but you've got them there. And I hope that you enjoyed this color explosion video. So join me next week, Thursday night at 7 o'clock right here on Facebook Live, Central Time, and have a good week. Thanks.